Marjory Taylor Greene decided to call out Shane Hazel, who is a Libertarian in Georgia. If you don't know who he is, I think he ran for Senate. Yeah, they have him in here up next to Perdue and Ossoff. And Shane Hazel got 115,000 votes. Really good showing for a Libertarian, by the way, who's running against in a really big election against a Republican and a Democrat. And he's running for governor coming up, I believe. So that's what Marjory Taylor Greene's upset about.
The Senate and now the governor.
All right, so let's go over what she had to say about this whole thing. I'm going to put it up here on the screen for anyone watching. She says, "Remember Ross Perot? He was great and relatable and a lot of people because he spoke common sense and wasn't part of the political establishment. He got nearly 19
What a crime.
Yeah.
What a crime.
He got nearly 19% of the vote in 1992 presidential election as an independent, pulling Republican votes away, and Bill Clinton won." What's the first thing that we have an issue with there? Now, we're going to talk about both sides of this argument because I think it's a legitimate conversation on both sides. But she says he got nearly 19% of the vote, pulled Republican votes away, and Bill Clinton won. Now, the first thing we have to say about that is he didn't pull Republican votes away. He won votes for himself. Mm-hmm. You don't know for sure who the people were that would have voted for him. Maybe they wouldn't have voted at all. I don't know. Maybe they just weren't happy with either one of the candidates that were in there. But you can't assume that those votes belong to either one of those parties. That's vote for a person. They don't have first right of ownership over Republican and Democrats. You know, that's the first thing that really drives me nuts when people do this. The next thing, Georgia's governor seat may turn blue for a similar reason, with some other factors because of our razor-thin margins. A Libertarian candidate in the race may pull enough votes to hand over our state to Stacey Abrams in 2022. Do you know she's running for governor in 2022? His name is Shane Hazel, and he's running again. Once again, I guess the overall theme here is that it's bad that Shane Hazel is running. We don't want a third option. We just want to have these two terrible options, and those are the only people that you ever have a choice between, I guess. So that's going to be the Libertarian argument on this. Is one, Libertarians should be able to put their names on the ballot and have people vote for them. You can't just say that we're going to have two parties forever. I don't think it's crazy to have more competition, especially coming from someone who's on the right, which is supposed to be more in favor of competition. You can't say that, well, if we have more competition, then people are going to vote for someone else because they don't actually like us very much. So they should not be an option for people. That way we can get those votes. What you could say is you need to do something to win those votes away from people. Get more votes. Don't worry about whether or not you have competition. Don't try and get rid of the competition. All right, this goes on. She did 8 tweets. I only pulled 4 of them, I think. We'll see. Hazel's 115,000 votes combined with some unresolved voter fraud issues were just enough to force a runoff. Also, the fact that your guy didn't get enough votes is the other thing. Yeah. That maybe people need to pay attention to. The disaster.
And how many people voted out of everyone in the district?
There's probably another 1 million or 2 people at least. I know there's actually a lot of really high voter turnout in that election. There's probably a couple million more people
that didn't even vote.
That didn't vote in the thing. Those are the people you need to be talking to.
Yeah. Do they have any bearing on the fact that there was a runoff at all?
No, it's just the fact that they had competition. You don't want to have competition in this thing. She goes on. The disaster in the Senate runoff on January 5th gave our Georgia Senate seat to Jon Ossoff, who had previously lost his bid for Congress. And there is a whole lot to that story and may play out in a very important 2022 Georgia governor race. And she finished up this whole thing. That single-digit vote percentage for the Libertarian governor's candidate, Shane Hazel, combined with too many unsafe absentee ballots and still angry Republican voters not voting, will be deciding factors that give Stacey Abrams what she doesn't deserve. It's a game of inches. Now, listen, you can make the argument that Stacey Abrams doesn't deserve to be the governor of Georgia. I would actually join in with you on that argument, that she doesn't need to be the governor of Georgia. But if she gets more votes than the other candidates do, that's how elections work. And you can't say that because there was someone else who threw their name in the ring and you would like it that there wouldn't be someone else, that there would only be two, and then one of them ends up with more votes than the other ones, that means she didn't deserve it. I don't understand that logic behind the argument. Now, there's a libertarian side of the where we talk about it would be better long-term strategy sometimes. I'm sorry. Pardon me. With all due respect. It would
if you'll excuse me.
If you'll excuse me. Sir, if you'll pardon me. It would be better long-term that we don't just have a bunch of crazy leftist Democrats elected everywhere. I think we've seen during the whole COVID thing that even though we don't like what a lot of the Republicans out there do on a daily basis, that the Republican states have been better states to live in because they've been less likely to take away basic liberties from people during this entire thing. And so maybe it's better that there's a Republican than if there's a Democrat in there. And what I would say is if there's a good Republican candidate on the ballot, I don't actually know anything about Kemp. I haven't paid attention to any of the Georgia politics. If there's a good Republican candidate on the ballot, it would not behoove the Libertarians to put up someone against that person, that maybe the money would not be well spent, and maybe it would be better for the Republican to win. So
unless one of your goals is to bring about the demise of the country even quicker.
And that's something,
could be entirely possible.
That's a strategy too. And, maybe this isn't that situation. I'm not really saying this, I'm not saying this to Shane, like drop out of the race or anything, because if you want to run, you should run. And the people running against you should try to get more votes than the other people. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
Get more votes than the other people.
This is a meritocracy.
Yeah. And, is it likely?
An unfair meritocracy, by the way.
Is it likely the Libertarians get more Republican-ish votes, people that might have voted for the Republican, than people that might have voted for the Democrat? It's probably likely that would be the case, that more people that more people from the Republican side would go towards the Libertarian than people from the Democratic side would go towards Libertarian. But there's also Libertarians out there that are going to go for the Libertarian. And if they're not there, then it doesn't mean that they're necessarily just going to go vote for the Republican or the Democrat. They might just not vote. So what I'm saying is there are some pieces to each one of these arguments, but what they need to focus on is if there's someone running in the race, which should happen, we need competition in our races, then just focus on getting more votes. Just get more votes than the other people. Just do a little bit. You only, 115,000 votes went to Shane. If you want to get those votes, you can either be more enticing to those people than a vote for Shane would be, or you can get 115,000 of the 2 million people that didn't vote to come out there and vote for you. That should be what they focus on.
I'll agree with you that whatever vote tally the Libertarian Party gets, either the Republican or Democrats, if they want some of that vote, then they're going to have to appease to the people voting for that thing.
Maybe if Shane wouldn't have been on the ballot, maybe the Republican would have won. We don't really know. We don't know how many of those votes would have that went for the Libertarian Party were just Libertarians that wouldn't have gone and voted. We don't know how many of them might have voted for the Democrat, how many of them might have voted for the Republican. We just really don't know, and we can't. When you're looking at solving a problem, we can talk about whether or not it's really good and the razor-thin margins for someone to go out there and run and all that, but we're not addressing the actual problem, which is that if you want to win an election, you need to get more votes than the other people. And that's the problem that you need to actually work on solving. And you don't do that by trying to take other people out of the race. You can do that. Republicans have been doing that quite a bit. What do you got to get? 25,000 signatures in Tennessee to be listed as a Libertarian on the ballot? They've obviously been trying to.
I think it's more than that now.
Is it more?
I think so.
It's a ridiculous number. It's like 50 for Republican or Democrat.
25.
And 25.
25.
And in the tens of thousands of signatures if you want to be a Libertarian on the ballot. It's so blatantly obvious what they're trying to do. And everyone's just fine with it. And they're waiting on. Now you got to wait for either Republicans or Democrats to change the rules for you to be able to get in there. And it's just not going to happen. That's not the way that you should be winning the elections. And it is you know, it's good to have some competition. Maybe Kemp will see this and he'll say, you know, those people that would go vote for Shane, maybe I need to say a few things or do a few things that would entice those people.